Hi, I'm Nathan, and you're listening to the Queer Conscious Podcast. Hello, everybody. It's been a while, and today we are talking about none other than the big D. It's painful, it's awkward, and if you've been through it, you know it can crack your heart wide open. Yes, we're talking about divorce. And today I'm joined by someone who knows that pain intimately, Eric Nicoll. He's an incredible human, podcast host, an inspiration to me, and he is being brave enough to share his story with us today. Divorce is just one of those things that can completely shake up your life. You're completely uprooted. The person that you're with, you have to grieve. Like, that's the closest person to you. And if you've ever gone through one, you know it's not just the ending of a relationship, it's unraveling of who you are and your identity of who you thought you were. We're going to talk about Eric's story, and you're going to get lots of wisdoms and the nuances and the embarrassing stories that love has put all of us through. So I'm excited to share this with you all. Enjoy. Eric, hi, welcome.
Hi. Hi, Nathan. How are you?
It's good. Good. It's so good to see you.
It's so good to be here with you, as always.
So I want to start off easy.
Sure.
So if you were to pick a movie genre that describes your love life, what would it be?
Oh, that's a good one. Wow, there's so many. The one that comes to mind and might surprise some people is The Holiday.
The
And
Holiday.
The Holiday, it is a movie that I watch every single year. The cast is my absolute all-time favorite. And the thing that I love about the story is, and the ending is it shows relationships that come together under kind of unforeseen or unexpected circumstances. And there are great hurdles and logistics in between the two relationships, i.e., an entire country between them and an ocean. And yet, what it really shows is the true kind of commitment of love and exploring that love despite circumstances and logistics and hurdles. And so that's kind of the genre, that particular movie, but that kind of
Yeah,
romantic, sappy,
that's
is
such
more
a
of the
great
genre.
answer. I was not expecting that. And are you Cameron Diaz?
We'll wait to the end and I'll maybe let you know afterwards. Probably this conversation will determine who I am.
Okay, perfect. So let's start at the beginning with this man that you married.
Sure,
Why don't you tell us a
sure,
little bit about how you got together?
sure. Um, these days it's the typical story, but I was living in Laguna Beach at the time, and I was single for quite a while. And that tends to be kind of my pattern. And I have been in some really remarkable and wonderful relationships. Some have ended tragically, some have ended beautifully, others have been opportunities to really get to know not only yourself, but the other person. So I was single for quite a number of years and living in Laguna Beach. And I was involved in organizations like HRC and other organizations in that town. Very small community, very tight community. And the gay community there was small but powerful. And I don't mean in the sense of uh, power, but empowerment, right? It was a super tight, great community. And I happened to meet my ex-husband on Facebook, believe it or not. And we followed each other on Facebook. And when I had to move, I reached out and said, "Hey, if you hear of anything, let me know." And to be honest, Nathan, when I saw his profile, and this is going to be, I think I've told this to two people. When I saw the profile photo, I was like, oh, no, 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 no. Incredibly handsome, but the outfit kind of was a throwback to Miami Vice 1984. And I was like, no, no, no. So we started to converse and started to communicate and started to bounce back and forth. And he was a successful doctor. And I had never really seen him around the community, which surprised me because, like I said, it was so small. But it's kind of a funny story, and I'll give the Reader's Digest version. But I ended up moving into the house of a friend, had a guest house that was right on the beach in Laguna. I was so excited because it's the waves lapping up on the windows, and it was a
Oh my
dream
God.
to
So
to be in this
jealous.
house. And I moved in, and I knew that he worked somewhere nearby, but I wasn't quite sure. So when I texted him and said, "Hey, I'm in the area. I'd love to swing by," he gave me his address, and I plugged the address in my GPS. And on GPS on your phone, like you're the dot and then the pin goes to where you're going.
Yeah.
Well, the pin was on the dot, like on the dot. And I'm like, well, that's weird. And I kept expanding and expanding. And as I expanded, I lived at the bottom of a very steep driveway that came off of Coast Highway. And his office was at the top of my driveway.
He was your neighbor?
He was my neighbor for his office. And
Oh
so I walked into his
my God.
office and we had never met personally and or
Uh,
in person. And I remember walking into his office and super cute little office. And I heard him in the back with a patient, and the patient walked out, and I'm sitting there very kind of nervous. But at the time, I have to be honest, I wasn't anticipating a match. I was just anticipating a good friend.
yeah.
And so he came walking around the corner, and Nathan, I have this weakness for men in scrubs. I
I
go
mean,
weak in the
there's
knees.
something about scrubs though. Like,
I will say they fit very well.
yes.
Don't leave a lot to the imagination. But he came around the corner in his scrubs, and it was not that kind of over the shoulder Miami Vice look. It was this energy that I first noticed. And you and I have talked about this before about that palpable energy that you can feel from someone else. And in that moment, I knew that there was something there. Now, I will say there were some, we talked about red flags the other day when we were talking about the podcast, and there were some red flags that I noticed, but that's actually how we met. So we met
Yeah.
through Facebook, through
Right.
mutual friends, and through my move into that house in Laguna Beach.
And then how long before you started inviting him over for a quick nooner on the office day?
So again, this will teach you more about me than you probably knew before, but I have a 3 date rule typically. I
Okay.
at least 3 dates before I invite them to stay or to come
Okay.
over and play. But we very quickly started to connect. And I've told this story a lot. When I invited him to come down for dinner, or to get together for dinner, he said, "Why don't I come down and make you dinner?" Now you have to understand, I've been single for 7, 8 years. Here's this beautiful, handsome, talented man with this killer smile and these beautiful eyes wanting to make me dinner. And I thought, okay. So I invited him down, and he showed up with Trader Joe bags. And in the bags were the ingredients to my favorite kind of like, hungover dinner, which is
Did he
basically
know? Did he know it was your favorite?
no, he had
No?
no idea. We had never talked about it. I didn't post about it. It's taco salad made with Fritos.
Okay. With
I mean,
Fritos?
that's
I love that.
Fritos. That's pretty
Yeah.
specific. So I'm
Yeah.
like, he made this beautiful dinner, and we had this great conversation. And I'll be honest, I don't talk a lot about this publicly, but there were some red flags. And one of the red flags was he was ending a relationship, and he
Okay.
was in a long-term relationship.
So you were the
And
rebound.
I, at the time, I didn't think so. I was not in that. I was, the emotions, the flutter, the all of that, the throwing objectivity and reality out the window and being in the space of this amazingly handsome and wonderful man. And I put aside my better judgment as if I hadn't learned the lesson once before, and moved very quickly. He needed a place to stay. He was, at the time, not in a healthy relationship. I'm a little bit of a savior, to be honest, at times. That's kind of my, one of my beings. And it moved very quickly. So he moved in very quickly as a kind,
How's quick as quickly?
oh gosh, couple weeks,
Couple weeks.
couple weeks.
Wait,
Yeah.
of knowing him, he moved in?
Hmm.
Oh my God, Eric, that is
Yeah.
quick.
It's quick. There was this really interesting dynamic in the amount of time that we spent together over those couple weeks that we got to know each other very quickly. I met his family in the first 2 weeks. I was taken to a Fourth of July barbecue, and I met the entire family. That's a large family in San
Yeah.
Diego, and there was just this naturalness about it. And so we didn't necessarily say we're going to get married tomorrow, but there was definitely a connection there.
Yeah.
And I have to say, it was beautiful. It was wonderful. We cohabitated well together. We both worked a lot. So there wasn't this, and this was a very small guest house, by the way. So it wasn't like we had a lot of space and I worked from home, but it was
Yeah.
very quick, but it felt
Yeah.
right. And
And
yet, go
like,
ahead.
at what point in this relation did you know that you were in love with him?
I want to say it took about maybe 8 to 10 months, I think.
And what was
You
it
know, you,
about him that made you fall in love?
So many things. Again, it was his energy, it was his smile, it was his family dynamic, very close to his family. I'm an only child. He comes from a large family, so when I was introduced to them, I felt like I was part of the family. They welcomed my mom very quickly, and so there was this dynamic that I didn't have growing up as an only child, divorced parents. And so I loved that. We traveled well together. He was funny. And the thing that I think was really interesting as I look back on it, I'm very social, as you know.
Mhm.
I can talk to a tree and make it talk back to me. I like to be out, but I also like my private time at home. And he was very quiet and not very social. And so it made the time that we spent together really quality time. There was a lot of, hand holding, a lot of intimacy, a lot of talking, a lot of conversation, and it was just beautiful. And he's a good person. Despite what happens down the road, I think innately he's a good person. And so I like that about him,
Yeah,
you
it
know.
sounded like everything just fit in your lives, felt very compatible. That's what it
It
sounds
did.
like. Yeah.
It did. Now, as we go through the story and we tell a little bit more about it, you'll see that there are some pivot moments because as we talked about the red flags, and as I talked about in great deal in therapy, finally, when I started to see a therapist in 2014, or sorry, 24, um, is not paying attention to those red flags is what ultimately cost us the
Yeah.
marriage.
And so, how long were you together or married?
So we were together 4 years. We got engaged, and then we got married, and we were together total. It's going to sound strange, but I think it was eight, between 7 and 8.
Okay, so
We were
together for
together four
four,
years before
married
we.
for about
4 years
four.
before. Yeah,
I
we
mean,
were together four
that's
years
like
before we
a
got engaged.
significant amount of time, though. Like you really, even though you got together and moved in quick, like you really got to know each other before you sealed the deal.
Oh,
Right.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think initially there wasn't even really a conversation on his part about getting married. Now, me, I'd been dreaming about my wedding since I was 9,
Same.
right?
That's why we're friends.
Exactly. And then couple that, I'm an event producer and a meeting planner. So of course I had the
Oh
whole
my
thing
God.
planned for 20 years. So I'd already
Do you
got
have
the
a
linens and the kit.
Pinterest board?
Of course, of
Same,
course. What a,
same. I do, but I
right?
have to change the colors with every guy. Every
Yes. Oh,
guy, the colors
100%.
have to change. There's different
100%.
energies. You can't just keep it.
100%. 100%. 100%.
So
But yeah, so I had it all picked out.
yeah, and so then at what point in the relationship did you feel like something was off?
Honestly, the day that I walked in the door and he told me he was divorcing me.
Oh shit.
Mhm.
Oh shit. So you were completely blindsided, like not even a hint or clue or feeling.
So, yeah, and let me explain that. So, completely blindsided by the announcement of the separation and divorce, yes. The last year that we were there, so we lived in Orange County. We got married, beautiful wedding, friends and family in Boston, had a beautiful reception here in San Diego with 150 of our friends and family. Everything was going great. We bought a house. We moved to Palm Springs because we could afford to buy a house. And we moved out there. And not going to get a lot of brownie points from Palm Springs saying this, but I think the first time that I started to worry a little bit was moving to Palm Springs. It's a very different place to live when you're in a relationship where you consider yourself to be a monogamous couple. And so it's just a very different energy and vibe. But we moved to Palm Springs, and the last year, we started to drift apart a little bit, but there were some moments and some things that my ex-husband needed to work on and asked to work on privately. So I am the giver, and I allowed him that space to do therapy, to get the help that he said he needed, and I supported him that. So I pulled away a little bit and allowed him that space. What started to happen in that moment, to answer your question more directly, was when I would say, how are you doing? How are things going with this process and this journey? I was shut out and I was told not to ask. And at the same time, there were some things that we can talk about in a bit that started to raise a question, but I never, one moment, 1 second, thought that we would end in divorce, let alone being completely blindsided.
Yeah. So in
Yeah.
that moment, what did he say to you?
So I think it's important to give a little bit of the backstory. So, and I'll
Yeah.
be quick, but I
Yeah.
travel a lot for work and I'm very trusting. Uh, like I said, very much into the committed monogamy of the relationship. When I traveled, I kept that promise wholeheartedly. And throughout the process, I had encouraged him to make some friends, that he didn't need to not be social and be out when I wasn't home. I expected someone in my life to be able to be out. I don't have that kind of desire
Yeah.
to keep them sequestered. um, some friendships were formed, one in particular that I didn't question in the beginning. I started to question this friendship a little bit later on. And then leading up to the announcement of the separation, I was traveling back to back on programs. And uh, we talked every day, twice a day, if not more. And this particular trip, we didn't. And I started to worry. I started to get a little concerned. I knew that he was spending more and more time with this person. This person was actually in my home while I was gone, working on some
Mm.
projects, and which were projects. I got a new closet, a new bathroom out of it, but didn't question it.
And a divorce.
And a divorce. Um, the fact that they don't get to enjoy that bathroom and closet still makes me happy. But I, I didn't expect it. I questioned it, but I didn't expect it. And again, I was trying to be very respectful of his time and his space to deal with what he needed to deal with. And so I thought, maybe this is just my insecurity. Went on a trip, came back, and the week in between, we just were distant and we were not gelling. And I was nervous. I had to go out on this other trip. And we went to the movies the week in between my two trips, and we all went together.
The three of
Myself,
you.
my ex-husband, his friend, who I
Uh-huh.
knew, who I knew,
Uh-huh.
and three or four other friends
Okay.
to
Oh,
a
there were other
movie.
people there too.
Yes.
Okay.
But seated in the theater was me, my ex-husband, the friend, and the friends. And as I do always in a movie, I reach over to grab my ex-husband's hand, and it's not reciprocated. And we're in a love show movie. We're in oh gosh, Lady Gaga. What was
Wait,
the yeah,
A Star is Born?
Star is Born. Yeah. Super like
Oh my
intense.
God.
Yeah,
Did you
super
cry
intense.
even harder? Because that would break my heart
No,
watching A Star is Born.
I thought my heart was going to come out my throat. I honestly, that's the moment that I said there's something wrong here. And so didn't reciprocate with the handhold. It was very awkward. I could just feel the tension. And I didn't think that the people in the row knew about what was happening. I now know that they did retrospectively. But when we went to
So
say
all the
goodbye,
friends knew that he was sort of seeing this other guy.
not sorta, it gets
They
better.
were seeing. They
Yeah,
Oh
they
Jesus, Eric.
not
Okay.
admitted it, but I am 100% confident that there was. But in that moment, we all said goodbye, and this person did not acknowledge me at all and basically hugged and kissed my ex-husband goodbye. And I get in the car and I'm like, oh, that was interesting. No response. So I go off on my trip. Yeah. So I go off on my
Okay.
trip, and when I'm on my programs, I'm 100% focused. I was a mess that week. I wasn't sleeping. I was making mistakes. We weren't talking. We had a huge fight on the night before I came home because we didn't talk. And I was basically brushed off and said on a text message, we'll talk when you get back. And then I went into my Scorpio mode and I went on the attack. And I said,
Oh dear
no, we'll
God.
talk now. And it's like, no, we're at dinner. And I'm like, leave dinner. We'll talk now. We had a huge fight on the phone. And so that flight home was the longest flight that I had ever had. I got home. We went to lunch. Nothing was said. So I'm thinking, okay, we had a bump. We'll get through this. Went home, played with the dog, unpacked, did laundry. Hear the garage door open a couple hours later, and he walks in the door, and I went to hug him. He grabs my hand, leads me to the sofa, and he says, I no longer love you. I'm filing for divorce. Don't try to reconcile. We're done.
Word for word. That's what he said, and that's it. No
That's what I
context.
heard. So, I mean, it's been 9 years, so I think it's
So
still pretty close in my head. Yeah, that's how it
oh,
was told to me. No,
that's
no,
it.
yeah.
What? How did you respond?
Um, I may or may not have punched a few walls. I was so angry and so hurt and devastated, and my entire life that I had spent the last, 7, 8 years building with him and for him, and building this life that I thought would be our forever. When I married and we said those vows, I married forever. And I know that divorce can happen, but in my mind, I married forever. I had found my person. And so it was devastating. I was absolutely crushed. I didn't know what to do, I didn't know where to go. And through this conversation, it just got worse and worse. And then he said words to me that I think I will never forget. They are etched and ingrained in my mind. And he said to the effect that it's taken him a year to figure out how to leave me without hurting me. And in that moment,
Mhm.
Nathan,
Mhm.
the rage just bubbled. And that's what I've held on to now and had to unpack for the last 7 years, since the separation, is unpacking that fact that there was a year that went by that you couldn't figure out how to have a conversation with me. And I will say this because I want to be fair. If your partner, husband, wife, comes to you and says, "This isn't working. I'm feeling disconnected. I'm feeling like, we've made a mistake, whatever. Let's go to therapy. Let's work it out." And even if I can't make you any guarantees, but at the end of the therapy, if we are determined that we cannot be together, at least we've tried. I would have had a tremendous amount of respect for this person. But being cut off like that and being told that there was no reconciliation and that it had been a year and they were done and had already made the decision, I had no say, I had no choice, was not fair, and it made me all under this resentment. It was super
Yeah.
resentful.
Because he got divorced basically a year before because he
Yes,
was ready and he started
yes,
pulling away and is
yes,
showing that to you. Oh my God, by not holding your hand during a Star is Born, first of all, that's an
yeah,
atrocity. But like
yeah,
then having this other guy there, that's shady.
yeah,
And then not wanting to even discuss or reconcile.
yeah.
Oh my God, that
Mm-mm.
that would kill
Yeah.
me.
So I was basically tossed to the side and basically felt invaluable, felt like I hadn't anything to give and that I wasn't good enough. And all of those childhood, things that we have to deal with when we go through a divorce with our parents at the age of 5, 6, and 7 creeped in so quickly. I did something wrong. I was the one. And I'm willing to own my part. I will always own my part in, the end of a relationship. But I can't describe it. What happened the next couple days was probably a mistake, but I was in such state of distraught that I begged him to stay
Hmm.
until we figured out what we were doing. We even went to a friend's birthday party together,
Together.
mhm, with 20 people, and put on this act that was disgusting at best. And then I got in the car and I just cried the entire way home. I slept on the sofa for a couple days, and finally he moved out. Uh, I was not going anywhere. He moved out. And the story goes on, which is not important to what we're talking about today, but he moved into a friend's house that didn't
The
tell
the
me.
friend, the friend who he kissed goodbye?
No, a
No.
friend,
Oh, okay. A
female
real friend.
friend, a female
Okay.
friend,
Okay.
and housed him, knowing how hurt I was and how betrayed I felt, which just created this more intense drama. But it was probably the worst 2 or 3 months of my life. When they talk about death, divorce being like a death, it's a loss. You have lost someone. Someone has died. That connection is gone, and it's hard to explain. Death is almost easier, and I know that might sound controversial, but there's a finality to it. You're not worried about running into the person at a function or at a friend's birthday party or at the supermarket or at Starbucks as they walk around the corner. So I saw them multiple times throughout my last year living in the desert. And every time it was just like this massive knife in my heart.
Ugh,
It's hard.
that's horrible. That's
Yeah.
horrible. And then that your friends, you said your friends sort of knew as well through
So
this?
there
Like,
were a few that knew before me. One in particular knew before me. In fact, my ex-husband told this person that he was going to go home that day and file for divorce or tell me that he was divorcing me. So that person held that weight and drama. We've had conversations about that in the past. Um, I can't for 100% say that everyone knew, but the fact that when it happened and when people started to find out is when I found out who my friends were and I found out what the community was about. And we talked a little bit about this on the onboarding call.
Mm. Yeah, so tell me a
It's,
little bit about that
yeah,
because it sounds like some of your friends knew what was happening. It sounds like some of your friends, sort of took his side a little bit. Like what was going on there?
yeah. Well, this community is so incredibly diverse, and it's one of the things that I love about our community, but it's also one of the things that I just don't like about our community is it's not the diversity, it's the assumption. And so I think because they were hanging out while I was gone and while I was traveling and people would see it, it's a small town. I was told later on after the separation, about 6 months into the separation, that they thought I knew that there was an interest there or that there was a potential relationship there. They've denied it to this day that they were not seeing each other. But 7 weeks after he told me he was filing for divorce, he sent me another email letting me know that they were in fact dating at that time. I call bullshit, to be perfectly frank with you. That's been happening for a year. And so some of the friends were like, yeah, we kind of saw it, but it wasn't our place to tell you. And I got really angry. And I said, of course, it's not your place to tell me. It's your place to tell him. It's your
Mm.
place to tell him to get his shit together and to stop hurting someone and grow a pair, be a man, and take charge and handle it. And so throughout the first couple of months, it was like, oh my gosh, we can't believe he did this to you. And we can't believe, and we're so sorry. And we're always here for you. We're always here for you. We're always here for you. We'll always be on your side. I didn't
Were
turn my
they
back 2 minutes. And these numbnuts are posting pictures on Instagram
with him?
with their arms around them at some
Mhm.
party. And I'm like, oh, is this how we're going to play that game? And so what was interesting about the conversation within the community was my tight circle. You are a member of that inner sanctum. We are honest with each other. We tell each other the things that we need to tell each other. We work out difficult situations. And so those friends really knew the truth. The other friends, I think, just figured it was part of the Palm Springs fairy dust that got, thrown around, and it's just what happens out there, and it was just accepted. They never once took the time to really sit down and say, "How are you?" And we're sorry
Yeah.
that this happened.
Well, what
And
do you
that
feel
hurt.
like
That was
is
hurtful.
really normalized in the community where that didn't seem to be a problem for them?
Well, again, I think because there are so many opportunities within relationships within the LGBTQ community, there's monogamy, there's ethical non monogamy, there's polyamorous relationships. And I think what's happened, I don't think, in my opinion, what has happened is that it's just become this assumptive nature of the community that we're all open, or at some point we're okay with it, or at some point we just accept it. And I think the problem is that we don't. I have no judgment to people who want to be in an open relationship. I'm quite interested in kind of curious about a three-way relationship here in San Diego that I am
Oh.
very intrigued by. But, you know,
So we'll have
I
to talk
think
about that soon, but
we'll talk about that when we see each other. But my interest is because I want to know how that dynamic works. I'm fascinated by it. Is it for
yeah,
me? I don't think so because I'm very much a one-on-one personal relationship. So I think the assumption is what is the misconception in the community is that
yeah.
it's just what's
And I
accepted.
think in more gay populated areas, like metropolitan areas, I think the popularity of open relationships, non-monogamy,
Mhm.
is is sort of assumed. And I think
And
that can
that's
run into problems. And actually I've been around couples who are monogamous. They're like, oh yeah, we're the only monogamous couple in Palm Springs. And we get these dirty looks all the time. We're known as that couple. And
mhm,
I feel bad for them, right? Because all
mhm,
these guys are trying to play with each of their partners and
mhm.
they almost get judged in a way for not
Yes.
being open. It's like why are you hoarding all of
Yeah.
your man meat? I don't know.
Well, that's
Uh,
true. Well, I've said, out there, it's interesting because to me, it's kind of like a fishbowl. It really is. It's surrounded by mountains. It's a fishbowl,
it's
and
truly,
it's a
yeah,
tight fishbowl. And so I think because it's commonplace out there, and more so than that monogamy, then it becomes the expectation of the assumption. Where I think it's a problem is when the person who's maybe approaching the couple, or approaching one of the people in the couple says, hey, come with me, come be with me, that they're not given the respect of saying, are you open to this? And you and I both know this. We're communicators. There is nothing wrong with asking questions. And so out there, here it's different. I haven't run into it here in San Diego. I didn't run into it in LA. Laguna Beach, even as small as Laguna is, I didn't run into it there. There's just an interesting dynamic out in the desert, and it's lovely and it works for them. But it just was interesting to see the
Yeah.
difference in the community.
Well, being on the receiving end of having a secret sort of withheld from you and the
Mhm.
community not telling you, right,
Yeah,
is a very different experience of that openness and
yeah.
freedom that so many people love and enjoy. But,
Hmm.
there can be a downside to it.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, has this challenged your relationship with the gay community like at large, or do you feel still like you're a part of it? And
It's a really good question, and thank you for asking that.
yeah.
It hasn't changed my relationship with the community. In fact, if anything, it has strengthened my convictions and strengthened who I am as a gay man. And that I'm at an age, soon to be 59, where I don't need to make that sacrifice. I don't need to give up something that's important to me simply because the community or parts of the community, deem that to be acceptable. I'm flattered when somebody approaches me. I wasn't in the beginning. I was approached by a couple out there, asked if I wanted to be a part of their relationship. And I said, "Do you know me? Because I don't think you can afford me," was my response. you know, if you want me
Uh,
to be available at your whim and, come and go as you please, to me, that's called prostitution and you can't afford me. Which was kind of a fun response. And now we laugh about it. But I think that what it's done is strengthened my relationship, and I'm much more accepting of the community as I was before. Because before I hid my stance and my convictions in silence and secretly, and now I wear them like I wear this sweater.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
No, that's really powerful. And, I think something that you had described before is that you had felt sort of disposable, like that this
yeah.
relationship was disposable. Like you're not even going to talk to me about it. There's no room for reconciliation. It's just
Mhm.
disposable. And, on the other side of this, like I see so many queer relationships, I'm sure you have too, where people just cherish each other. They recognize
Mhm.
the fragility of LGBTQ relationships in this country, in the world, and they do everything in their power to make it work. Like, what do you think it is that separates those who treat their partners as disposable and those who treat it as incredibly valuable?
That is probably a conversation that could take several episodes of a podcast, I think.
Yeah.
But coming from you, I know where that's coming from. I don't know that I have an answer quickly to that conversation. I think it comes down to an individual's self-worth and an individual's self-love. And I've always loved the phrase, let me rephrase that. I've always been very fearful of the phrase when a couple says, we complete each other. He completes
Right.
me, or I complete him, or we're 50-50 partners. And I've been taught by some very, very, very educated and successful people about relationships that you bring 100% of you and your partner brings 100% of them, and that you are not there to complete them. You're there to complement them. And so when I see relationships that have worked for 10, 20, 30, 40 years, I see that complement. I see that 100%, 100%, so that there isn't a need to maybe fulfill upon someone else's weaknesses or insecurities or vulnerabilities. It's that you enhance those by being there and being supportive and communicating. I've said this to you so many times over our friendship. Communication in a relationship is absolutely critical and the only reason why I truly believe relationships do not survive.
Yeah.
So communication has to be there. Um, I referenced your podcast that I think was this week.
Mhm.
Goosebumps, goosebumps for what you two talked about in the conversations and setting time to have those conversations, scheduling conversations, limiting the time that you have conflict changed
Yeah.
my world. And so I throw that question back to you as well. But I think for me, it's being able to really stand in the space of, I am whole and complete in myself. I love myself and I have so much to give. And here's what my strengths are. And here's what my weaknesses are. And admit those weaknesses. Be open to tell people. Had I told my ex-husband that I was insecure and a little bit jealous because of my past and knowing what my dad did to my mom, I carry those insecurities with me,
Yeah.
may have made a difference. may not have. But for me to have the confidence in the space to say that would have probably been a game changer at some level.
Yeah.
And so when I see relationships, a few in particular that I can think of, they're also very independent. We
Yeah.
spent way too much time together, way too much
Mm.
time. Now, I encouraged him to go out and make some friends. I didn't exactly encourage him to go out and find a new partner,
Find a boyfriend.
find a
Yeah.
boyfriend. But I was very social. I traveled a lot, like I said, and listen, I had opportunities galore in my tenure in that marriage to be unfaithful all around the world. And I chose not to because I was strong enough in myself to say, I have the love of my life. I have my person, and I need to give of myself to him. So that's just
Yeah.
me. But again,
Well,
does that answer your
that just
question?
yeah, that just shows, I think, to me, your integrity within yourself. And I think it goes back to what you were saying is around the self-love. What separates people who treat the relationships as sacred and disposable
Mhm.
is their ability to love themselves enough to show up 100% as a person who's willing to have vulnerable conversations.
Yeah,
That takes self-love,
it
right?
does.
Because only a person who is ashamed of themselves is unable to be vulnerable and have real conversations like that.
It's true. And, just to give a little context, as we learn through our relationships, my very first relationship, I was with him for many years, love of my life, amazing guy. I think we would have been together now forever. Back then, it was too soon. I just
Yeah.
had come out, he was out for a while. But in our relationship, towards the end, I met someone, and this person just changed my world. I got the goosebumps again, the butterflies, and I didn't know how to express that to my ex. Why was I having these feelings? I didn't know that it was natural. I didn't know that I could
Yeah.
communicate. And when I finally did, because I had a breakdown, he told me, and I will credit this with him for eternity. He said, if you need to go figure it out, but don't leave me. You have my permission.
Yeah.
And so I did, but my guilt and my shame in doing that cost me that relationship
Wow.
because I couldn't handle the guilt that I felt by experimenting, even though he told me it was okay. And so I ended that relationship.
Yeah.
And so we learn throughout the course of our relationships, who we are and how we show up. And so I think it's important to not, for those that are listening and maybe struggling in relationships and whether you're married or not, is that it's about the growth and it's about the journey, wouldn't you say? And that if we are able to really be ourselves and to communicate, it changes everything, despite the end result.
And do you think things would have been different with your last ex and the divorce? Do you think anything would have been different there had you had the opportunity to communicate and be vulnerable with one another?
That's hard to say. I think so. I'm not so sure he thought so.
Mhm.
And again, I'm not going to get into specifics. That's his story to tell. But I think that had we really been able to open a conversation and a dialogue about truly what wasn't working, and ultimately that conversation came out in that night of all the things that I was doing wrong or where he was feeling rejected, which again were news to me. And had he said to me all along, I need you to be more X, I need you to be more Y, I would have done anything for this man.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think had we had that open dialogue, it could have been different. I don't know, Nathan, and I think you with your clients deal with this a lot, but sometimes people have a lot to unpack. There's a lot of trauma, and there's a lot of childhood trauma, and a lot of things that, drive us to make decisions based out of fear or irrational decisions.
Well, I would agree with that. I think, you posed the question to me too, what do I think separates, those
Mhm.
who view love as disposable versus sacred? And I would echo what you're saying about self-love, but it's also their ability and their access to healing and,
Yeah.
resources to help heal because of everything that we go through as a community, the rejection that we face from parents, from the world, from society, there is so much to unpack. There
Mhm.
is so much fear of intimacy and trust and commitment that it takes a lot of inner work to be able to have the sort of integrity that you have in your relationships, to be able to have conversations that are going to really amplify and bring more intimacy and closeness in a relationship.
Mhm.
So I think it's, yeah, access to healing too.
Yeah.
Uh,
I'm going to sound like my grandmother, but if I look at my grandparents' marriage, they were married for over 50 years. And if you look at the time frame in which they grew up, they didn't have social media. They didn't have all of this drama on television. They didn't have all these external forces, and they probably had some issues. No one's perfect, but it was different. And I think now, why I think I sound like my grandmother is social media. And I think what we see in the comparisons within the LGBTQ community of comparing ourselves individually and also comparing our relationships it's a death wish
no, it's the
for
grass is
healthy
always greener.
relationships.
The grass is
Always.
always greener. Mhm.
But guess what? Sometimes it's fake grass. Sometimes it's not real.
Yes.
And
It's
you
that
pay a lot of
artificial
money for
grass
that
and it
fake
doesn't
grass.
feel as good.
It's expensive and it's hot and it
Yeah.
smells. It's not the same.
Yeah. No, and they have boring personalities, the sex isn't that good.
No,
They
it's
just look
terrible.
good on a shelf. So, Eric, quick question. Did you ever like look back and think like, damn, like I was the red flag in this relationship? Was there anything
Mhm.
toxic trait of yours that, you can take
Yeah,
ownership of now?
of
Yeah.
course. And I want to be clear. I said to you when we decided to record this podcast, I want what's best for him. I really do. I care about him. He has a place in my heart and his family as well, even though they've cut off all communications, which is strange. But um, there were red flags for me too. Yeah, I'm very there's a part of me that's needy in the sense of communication. And so when I kept asking him, "Are you okay?" Because I would sense and notice moments of depression or sadness or that pulling away where we were sitting in the same room, but we weren't together, we weren't there. And so I would ask, and I would sometimes push a little too hard, and it would upset him. That's something that I've learned
Yeah.
now and am very aware of.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
interesting. I'm like, is that needy or is that I almost question if that's a red flag because communication's so important. And obviously he's holding this secret that you were aware of, that you knew something was going on there.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I'm
I'm
gonna
just trying
yes
to
and
be,
you. Yeah.
you can yes and me because I'm just trying to be fair.
Yeah. I
Just
think
trying to be fair.
you've been more than fair. Anger and resentment and
Yeah.
rage.
Um, to be honest, it was getting involved in our community again once we started to open up and making friends and meeting people like you and the others that we've met here. It was starting out pro was a huge entree into reconnecting with community that I didn't know here and that I have fallen in love with. And it was one particular night where I was having a particularly rough night and a new member walked in, this beautiful girl, and I was having a night, angry, wanted to go home, didn't want to be there, and was having some issues here at the house with my dog sitter. And it's just a crazy night. She walked up and she's like, "Hi, I'm a new member." And I'm like, "What do you do?" She's like, "I'm a psychologist." I'm like, "Give me your fucking number. I'm calling you tomorrow."
Yeah. I
I
need
called
you
her.
right
I
now.
called her the next day and I started
Oh my
therapy
God.
with her. And
Yeah.
that was the turning point. It was that break and that moment where everything that was happening around me, I felt was going to be the thing that triggered a massive breakdown. And I'll be honest, Nathan, I didn't realize how much anxiety and how much depression I had been carrying for years. It wasn't just about my divorce. It was
Mm,
family related and my dad, related. And by the grace of God, Brittany and I worked through a lot of that and was really finally able to let all of that go and let all of the anger go and the frustration and the resentment and the betrayal and all of that. Some of it still pops up, right? We're human. We have a heart, we have feelings. I missed that relationship. I miss my in-laws. Um, but I think it allows me the opportunity to really get back to me. It allowed me the opportunity to
yeah.
get back to me and to start to self-love again.
Yeah. And was there something that you like had to accept that helped you to let go of all of that
Yeah.
betrayal? Or, yeah.
Yeah.
What was that?
It's his journey, not mine.
Mm, hmm. Yeah.
His journey, not mine. And that's a hard one. I'm a people pleaser and I like to fix things and I like
Yeah.
to make people feel loved and welcomed and warm. That's just how I am. And I had to let go that this was his journey and not mine to fight. And I'll tell you, there were moments in the separation right before he moved out where I saw a glimpse. It was a flash moment when the therapist asked me what I wanted out of this therapy session and I said I will work on this marriage. I will do whatever it takes. I will climbed to the highest mountain, and he turned to my ex-husband and said, "What do you want?" And he looked at me, and he had tears in his eyes, and he started to cry, and he didn't answer. And I knew in that moment, even though I didn't realize that until much later in therapy, it's gonna make me cry, didn't realize it until my own therapy, that it was his journey, that he needed to figure it out.
Because he didn't know.
He didn't know. And here's the thing, we talked about red flags. Also, another red flag earlier, in therapy, Brittany asked me, when did you first realize that you didn't trust him?
Mhm.
And I had to dig down to my toes to say that I didn't trust him the moment I met him
Wow.
because he was in a relationship with someone else and just ending that relationship.
Yeah.
And that for me, to give you the answer of all of this, is when I had to realize that that was my fault. That was me, is that I had to
Wow.
own that even despite that momentary thought, that I wasn't strong enough in my own convictions that if this was meant to be, if this was the relationship that was meant to be there, then he needed time to heal.
Yeah. But it's like it's in retrospect, it's like you could have never known that,
I
right?
couldn't.
It's almost like you
No.
you had to have taken this because that's what you did. And in retrospect, we can all say like, "Oh, I should have done this, and I could have done this
Hmm.
better." But at
Hmm.
the end of the day, you did what you did, and still, it's taking that ownership of it that just allows
Hmm.
you to be free from the betrayal and the rage
Yeah.
that's, you know,
Yeah.
festering inside of you. And do
Well,
you feel
that
like,
betray
go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say that betrayal and that rage, Nathan, is really about your own sense of worth, right? That rage and betrayal thinks you. And I say this a lot. I think I said it on our podcast together. I didn't think that thought. That thought thought me, right?
Mhm.
About the rage and betrayal is because I made it about me, but it really wasn't about me. And so all of that rage and all that betrayal and all of that anger that was eating at me, I was watching very superfluously. I was watching them live a life that they didn't give a shit about me. So
Mhm.
why was I carrying all of this for a year? And then secondarily to that, I agree with you. I did what I did and I don't regret it. I would do it again. It was some of the best years and the best days and the best memories and moments of my life ever, ever. And so when I look back, the thing that I had to really presence when he said to me sitting on the couch, it's taken me a year to figure out how to do this without hurting you, was the exact same thing that we said 7 years earlier, sitting in a restaurant in Laguna as he was getting ready to leave his former partner. It's taken me a year to figure out how to leave because I
Oh
can't get out.
no. And you got the same
But I didn't
experience.
hear it. I
Ugh.
heard it differently, right? Think about that. The
Uh-huh.
first go around, I heard it,
Uh-huh.
I'm going to help you. I'm there for you. You don't,
Yeah.
you deserve better. You deserve to be in a relationship that you're loved and cherished and you are adored and supported. You deserve that. And guess what? I'm going to give it to you because I'm that guy. On the receiving end, it's a whole, it's a
God.
whole different
Right?
ballgame.
Because it's like you just wasted a year of my life, right? I could have been doing so much. I could have started my healing journey faster. I could have been, and we
Mhm.
already have this complex, I feel like, in the gay community that we're behind in some way. And so it just adds to that.
Yeah.
So, what beliefs about love help you now that you are dating? You're dating now, right? I mean,
Do we call it that now?
I mean, are you
Yes.
fucking? Is that what you're doing? I don't know.
No. Oh, geez, I wish. I
What
wish.
you are
Um,
talking to men?
yes. Well,
Okay.
and you know some of the stories. So yes, I started to date a couple
Okay.
years ago, right after the
Okay.
pandemic. I think the universe was playing tricks on me a couple times. I'd be sitting at a dinner and I'm like, how the hell did I get here? It's like with this conversation is like so not me. Um,
Yeah.
but I dated and enjoyed it and was
Mhm.
excited about it. And then I got a little discouraged about it, right? I'm 59, so I consider sometimes that I'm too old to date the young ones and too young to date the old ones. So I'm somewhere kind of in the middle. And then there is this kind of new environment of online dating, which we've talked about, which can be kind of a shit show, if you will, right? It's kind of
Mhm.
like, are they there? Are they really them? Is that them? Are they that age? Is it the person with the picture? And then they'll talk to you for a couple times and then they ghost you. So I'm an in-person kind of guy, right?
Yeah.
I want to meet you. I've met all of my partners somewhat relatively in person. And so I've dated, I've hired a dating coach. got to see a lot about how I was marketing myself.
Hmm.
After the divorce, the copy and the words on my dating apps, I would have swiped left if I had met myself. I was like,
Yeah.
so I am dating. I know that my person's out there. I am completely 100% still in love with love. I am
Mm.
also a huge proponent of marriage. Let's just pray and hope that we can continue to have that, right?
Yes. Oh God.
Um, but I think that it's something that I hold very dear. What's different now is as I said earlier, I'm not willing to kind of sacrifice. I'm open to a multitude of things. I'm not rigid, but there are certain things that I will not compromise on, and I
Yep.
don't need to. I don't need
Like
to.
what? Monogamy?
Well, monogamy is one.
Okay.
But the other thing is really, one of the things I learned about your last episode was I love this ability to set the time. I think we're so busy these days. We're so involved in so many things and so much, and we barely have a time to breathe and exhale. That now more than ever, it's really important to schedule that time together. But I'm also wanting someone who's independent. I
Mm.
sometimes look over at the other side of the bed with the dog snoring or my her butt in my face, and I go, do I want someone there? Do I want someone in that space all the time? Um,
Right.
and the answer to that is yes. I'm a romantic. I'm a hopeless
Yeah.
romantic. I'm super gushy and stupid at the same time. But I also
Yeah.
like a guy that is very confident and masculine and knows what he wants and knows how to get it and is a little bit more. I sometimes say that I want to be the little spoon at 6'4". That's kind of hard sometimes to be the little spoon at 6'4". But yeah, I'm a
It's
hopeless romantic.
possible. It is
I know it's
possible.
possible, but yeah,
You're laying down. It's
I'm
happening.
like
It can happen.
exactly,
But
exactly.
so, question for you: if you were to
Yeah.
write new vows today, not to
Mm-hmm.
a partner, but to
Mm-hmm.
yourself,
Yeah.
what would you promise to yourself?
Uh, oh, I love that question. Um, I promised myself integrity. I would promise myself um, the space to support, to have to have myself fulfill my own dreams or my dreams, to give myself the permission to pursue my own dreams. I would also promise myself to not be afraid of what I want when it comes to intimacy and sex. That was a big part of this last relationship. So I wouldn't be afraid to ask for it, to kind of, let's say, fly the freak flag, if you will. Um, but I would also promise myself the willingness to let people explore their journey, and to give them grace and to give myself
Mm,
grace. I gotta give
mm.
myself a little grace. I'm sometimes really hard on myself.
Yeah, yeah. Please stop. And
Yeah,
you listening, yeah, you listening in your car
yeah,
or in your headphones.
yeah.
Give yourself some grace. So, all right. So you would promise to yourself that you would be a freak and give yourself grace.
Mm.
That sounds amazing.
How did you know the order, Nathan? You ranked in order of importance these days. Yeah,
Be a freak. No, honestly, like we have
yeah.
a very short time on this planet, and we might as well be our freakiest selves and not take ourselves so seriously. So,
It's going to sound like a funny transition, but or yeah, transition. But you've taught me a lot about that. You really have who you are
about
and
being
who
a
you
freak.
are.
Okay.
No, and that's why I said it's going to sound like a strange transition. But you've really your relationship to life and your relationship to yourself and your relationship to the community and to your clients and to your space of being is really remarkable. And I've watched you, you know, live a life unapologetically for who you are and be free to dance and to do the things that you want to do and to express yourself in a way that is really remarkable. And in a world where our community at many times has lived out a tremendous amount of shame and a tremendous amount of fear, I applaud you. And so I've learned a lot from you. Yes, a little, kind of freakish things at times as well, which I love our talks. But
Thank you.
but it's okay. But you've also been one of the only people that's actually been able to sit down and have those kind of conversations. And I think we need to be more okay and more open. We're so pent up in this country. It's so ridiculous how ashamed we are of our bodies. Just did a recent podcast talk about body positivity that's going to air next week. And about how we just need to be okay when we look in the mirror. And I think that's where a lot of this self doubt comes from. We look in the mirror and go, am I? Is it? And we have to stop that. So I'll stop
Yeah.
at your request doing those things if our listeners will also stop, right?
Yeah.
And just love themselves.
Fuck it. I'll stop too, but thank you, Eric. That's very kind. And similarly, I learn and am inspired by you. And in your freaking podcast, I think you started your podcast, and I'm like, I gotta fucking start mine. I'm like, I've been wanting to do this for years. Anyway, so thank you.
Well, the one
Although,
the minute you did, I was so excited. I was so excited because you have a lot to share.
so
I
if
cut you
you
off.
don't know, Eric is the host of the Just Do You podcast. I've been a featured guest twice now. Is that right? Three times? Oh, I have
Yes,
been on three times. I
three
am
times,
the most featured guest on the Just Do You podcast, so go
and one
check
of
it
the most
out.
downloaded, I might add.
Well, okay. um, okay, so last question,
Yeah,
because I really want to hear this story again. If you have maybe like a few more minutes, you're good.
yeah, of
Okay,
course.
so I want to know, Eric, what is the pettiest thing that you did post divorce that you laugh about to this day?
You're gonna make me tell that story.
You know what story I'm asking about,
Are we
huh?
talking about the mattress?
Oh, I was thinking about Luca and the dog.
Oh,
There's a
oh,
mattress story.
I just gave myself away. Okay. Well, the Lucas
Wait,
story is
no,
much.
I
The
want to know
Lucas,
about the mattress.
The Lucas story is much pettier. All right, I'll tell both real quickly. So the Luca story
Okay.
was Luca was a gift. I had been looking for a lab for a long time. I have had dogs my entire life, and I had to give my dog away, my former lab away, when I moved from Atlanta back to California. And so I didn't have a dog for a long time. And so we were all together as a family up in San Luis Obispo, went into a shelter, and there was a litter of black lab puppies. And I literally fell in love with this dog, and she adopted me and I adopted her. And in the moment, I didn't realize it, but the dog was adopted in my ex's name. And so didn't think about it because we're going to be together forever, right?
Right.
And so we go on, and of course, the dog's mine, right? She is clearly attached to my hip and have a very different relationship with my dogs than my ex's dogs, which grew up as dogs, but they were kind of outside dogs and part of the family. My dog slept on a Burberry bed,
Yeah.
with,
As they should.
$200, as they should, with $200 a month dog treats. So, she was a little pampered. So Luca and I obviously, were attached at the hip. And she tolerated my ex, but wasn't really like super, super in love. So, of course, I knew that this dog was going to be mine. So, when the separation happened, there was a cute moment where I was sobbing uncontrollably in bed. And it was the day that he moved out. And Luca came trotting down the hall, and she jumped up on the bed. Now, she was allowed on the bed, but she slept in her crate at night. So she jumped up on the bed. She got as close to me as she could. And she kept looking at me. And then she'd look at his pillow, and she'd look at me, and she'd look at his pillow. And I looked at her and I go, the rat bastard's not coming back. So you can have that spot. And she got up and she went over and she laid on the bed and she flipped over on his pillow. I kid you not. And she went and let out this sigh. And I'm like, did you know something I didn't? So about a week later, we start going through the process of the separation. And I'm having to go through the house and list all the things that we're separating. And, me, Mr. Planner. So I've got a grid and it's color coded. And I think about the dog and I'm thinking, oh shit, like this is good. Is the dog in my name? So is this what you're talking about?
Yes. Oh,
So I
yes. This is it.
called all the veterinarians and changed the name, and of course they had no problem. But then I got to the adoption agency and I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. So I called and I said, hey, I said, and I, of course was distraught because I'd been crying and I was angry. And I said, so I need to change the adoption records on the dog. And she's like, oh, well, that's not really possible. And I said, well, it's really unfortunate, but so and so is no longer with us. And so I need to make sure that she's in my name. And she said, oh dear, I'm so sorry for your loss. Of course. So they changed
I mean,
the records. And I went home and got off the phone and I called my attorney and I said, I want you to put sole custody, no visitation rights in the divorce settlement. And the attorney goes, it's a dog. And I go, I want you to put Luca, no visitation. He's getting nowhere near this dog in the divorce settlement. And he goes, I've never had to do that in 30 years. I'm going, I'm paying you $500 an hour to handle this divorce.
yeah, you
Put it
do
in.
it.
So they put it in. And of course, it caused this big conversation. I'm like, you don't even like the dog. But yeah, so I, kind of I didn't lie. He was no longer with
I
us.
I forgot that you said that. I knew you called to change the name, but I'm sorry.
Yeah,
But it
that's
is
what
a
I said.
loss. You're
No,
right. I mean,
it
we
was.
just talked about it in the podcast.
He
It is
was
a
no
loss for
longer.
you.
It's a loss. He was no longer
You
with
didn't
us.
lie. You didn't lie. That is hilarious. So, are you going to tell the mattress story too? Do we get
Oh,
to hear about this?
Jesus. So it's something that could have escalated quite badly, but when I found out, of course, and I had all these assumptions running through my head because I had no notice, I realized in my head that this person who was having an affair with my ex-husband had been in my house. My assumption had been he'd also been in my bed, especially after they announced they were dating. So I got so disgusted that I drug the mattress out to the front yard and proceeded to light it on fire as a ritual moment of quote unquote burning the house down. Let's just say I
Oh my
didn't
god.
really understand how combustible mattresses could be.
I remember hearing the story now. I totally
Yeah.
forgot. You
So
burnt
there
a
was a move.
mattress in your front yard.
It didn't burn the whole thing. I put it out before it got out of control, but it did call out the neighbors, and there was some conversation about what I was doing. And like, I don't know, just something came over me. But you know, so the mattress was destroyed. They had to come take it away, and then I had to sleep on the couch for a couple days until because he took the guest bed, so I had to sleep on the couch until my new mattress showed up.
Oh my god.
Um, there were
That's
moments. Listen,
amazing.
there's moments in that separation divorce I was not proud of, where I may have said or done things that I probably will never tell a soul, not even your listeners. But
Okay,
you
that's
know, it's
okay.
just your coping mechanisms that
Yeah.
pay. And I also believe, as a final kind of statement, I'm a firm believer in karma. And as much as I don't have, any held on resentment for my ex-husband, who I do still hold some residual resentment that I'm not really willing to unpack is the other party. Because I think when you know wholeheartedly that there is a relationship there that is not yours to take, and you take it, then you've got some karma coming to you. So I do hold on to that a little bit and have seen some of it in the past. But, you know,
And I
I'm
mean,
human.
and to close out here, right? You're a
Yeah.
human. These are valid emotions. I
Hmm.
mean, that rage is valid. I
Yeah.
think that's the least you could have done. Right? You didn't harm him.
No, I
So
just burn a hole in the mattress.
yeah, right. And so, last thing I want to ask
Yeah.
you is just having gone through all of that.
Hmm.
Um, what did you learn? Like, what is the most valuable piece of wisdom that you've taken from this experience?
Yeah. Yeah. There's so many things, Nathan. I think I could write a book, which is in the works. But I think what I could, what I take away from it the most is that we're put on this earth to be of service to others. And in that journey of being of service to others, we're going to have relationships. And those relationships come in for what I call maybe cliche, kind of inspirational posts on Instagram. But people come into your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And there have been people that have come into my life for brief moments that have changed my world and that have opened me up to things that I never thought possible. There have been people that have come into my life for a reason and a lifetime that I'm still learning from. And out of this whole experience, like I said, I came out of it with some of the best memories of my life. Walking down that aisle and being married by his sister, and to know that marriage equality in this country was legal and is legal. Those are the moments and the things that I will never forget. The people along the way that supported our relationship and that I met through that relationship, I will cherish and hold deeply. The ones that have stuck around and were of integrity. So for me, the thing that I learned that this relationship, this marriage that I thought would be forever was there for a reason. And I'm very blessed for that. And I thank him for that. And I thank his family for that. And I thank everybody that played a part in that happening because I'm a better person. I'm a stronger person, having been in that marriage and having been in that relationship. I know what true love is, even though it didn't last forever. I've had the blessings in my relationships that I've had. to know what true love is. And I want that for everyone if they want it for themselves. And sometimes you just have to take, what's the word? Take the punches, for lack of a better term. Take the good with the bad, take the golden
Mm.
moments and take the punches to be able to get through, because nothing is guaranteed in this world. And whether I lost him to a divorce or lost him to a passing, the fact that I lost him makes me realize that those moments are moments that will continue to show up in the future. And who I am and what I have to bring to the table are because of that. And whoever is lucky enough to be in a relationship with me next and to have that space is also going to thank them.
Yeah. So this is what healing looks like. Because damn it, you're gonna make me cry, Eric. That to be able to go through something like that and to still have an open heart afterwards, to still believe in love the way that you believe in love, to cherish life even more than you already had. And I know you cherished that marriage when you had it. Like, I know that just the way that you talk about it. Like, you were in love and you still are
Mhm,
in love, like, not
mhm.
with him, but you're in love with life, you're in love with people, your community. It takes so much strength and
Yeah.
courage to be able to do that. So I just, again, I'm inspired by you, and thank you for sharing your story with us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and thank you for allowing me to tell the story that I've never told publicly before.
We got the exclusive here.
You
Thank
got the
you so
exclusive. It's an
much.
honor. It's an honor. And thank you for having me. Really, it means the world to me.
All right, Eric. Well, I
All right.
will see you soon. We can talk about that thruple that I want to hear all about. So, thank you for listening to the Queer Conscious Podcast, where we explore how love feeds us, heals us, and gives us life. I'm your host and queer love coach, Nathan Serrato. But remember that the conversations that we're having here today are not a replacement for working with a licensed therapist, professional coach, or mental health practitioner. These conversations are for entertainment and education purposes only. But if you are dealing with some big challenges and you're thinking about seeking some professional support, it is one of the most empowering things that you can do for yourself. You can visit queerconscious.com for more information on how to do that. Now, if you love today's episodes and you want more episodes like this, I need your help. Please leave a 5-star rating and review. That's going to help me to bring you more high quality content and interviews. So until then, take care of yourself and don't forget to let love in.